Welcome, pudding people, to another episode of Everybody Loves Pudding. I'm your host, Ken Seymour, and today I am truly excited to bring to you a conversation with a gentleman that's going to be in an upcoming film, actually a couple of upcoming films that have the potential to be pretty exciting on their own. I'm here with Joseph Poliquin. Thank you very much for joining.
How's it going? How's it going?
So, I have a couple questions. You're from Baton Rouge originally, right?
That's right.
You started in kind of a technical background. How did you transition from that into acting, or I should say transition first into music is what I understand, and then into acting?
Well, I fell in love with the piano at an early age. I didn't have like the perfect family life when I was younger, so the piano was really nice. It got me out of those disputes between my parents, and whenever they were arguing, I could just drown that out with piano. And I loved what it did. I loved that the music that I started playing it would calm our family and it would start entertaining, our family. So it got to a point where I was like, I better play piano every day just so that everyone here is happy. And I was so young, and music just, I fell in love with it. So when I was 16, I begged for my first guitar. And once I had that guitar, I was ready. I started learning songs. I formed a band, and I was ready to go around the country. So I was like, I'm ready. The day I got my car, I was like, you don't mind me driving to California, do you? Just like so happy. And so that really gave me the experience I needed when it came to losing the stage fright or killing the stage fright, and being able to leave home and miss my family and friends, but still, perform completely at my full potential without, letting my emotions get the best of me.
That, I was going to say, in acting for television or movies, I mean, it's a lot of takes, it's close set, but with music, you've got to be entertaining right then, right there, or you're going to hear about it.
Yeah, I mean, you get a rehearsal, a couple of hours before the show, but yeah, you're right. As soon as the show starts, it's like, music's a lot like theater, though. So, when the curtains go up, you got one take,
So are you more of an acoustic guy, or do you prefer a nice electric guitar?
To be honest, I have my acoustic guitar with me at all times. I bring it everywhere with me. But I'm more about the hard rocking, grungy metal, crunchy guitars and double bass pedals,
Nice. Is that Henry V is the name of your band, correct?
Yeah, correct. I know a lot of the press that I've been seeing coming out lately has been talking about my band. They're saying that I started in Henry V, but I didn't. I started with a band called North Show. My grandmother passed away, and I named the band after her. And then I went to a few other bands, Wolfbrain and something with Silhouettes. And I landed with Henry V because I realized that it's really hard to find dedicated musicians who want to give up all their other goals for music. Like some of our bassists were becoming nurses and doctors, and our rhythm guitarists were going to college for other things. So I just kept ending up by myself. So my name is Joseph Henry Poliquin V, and my parents always used to call me Henry V. Henry V. They used to get mad at me, Henry V. So that's why I named my band Henry V. But that's where I'm at now. I'm in that band.
So I take it. I tried to find some examples of your music, and I found it somewhat difficult to track down. Would you? Where can you find the music that you play? Do you have like a website, or do you have some published albums?
I do. As far as fully published albums, not yet. I'm hoping, and I feel it's silly saying this. A lot of people have said it, but I feel like movies are going to be like my leg in to the music industry, right. And that's really what I'm hoping for, because I want to get a fully produced full album. I have 300 songs, probably original songs I've written, but I do have websites where you can find demos that I've recorded with various friends, or even some of them were done in my living room on a MacBook, and an iPhone even. But it's SoundCloud and Reverb Nation. You can search for either HT5 or Henry V.
Fantastic. Would you kind of describe the sound of your band? You say you like that crunchy rock. Are you kind of a hard rock, a heavy metal? Where does your style fit in?
I would say my style fits in with 2003 Warped Tour. So I don't scream much, unless I'm really feeling a certain part of a song. There's a clip on my Instagram that one of my friends that I met on Greyhound actually commented on and was like, "You're the next Jared Leto," which I'm flattered, but I'd like to be the first Henry V, you know? But yeah, I would definitely say it's 2003 Warped Tour, and it's post-hardcore, melodic, alternative, hard rock. You know, it's not technically grindcore metal. You know, it's kind of like Metallica, I think. Yeah, I'd really compare it to Metallica.
That's always a good band to put yourself in in the same space as, because
Right.
they had some good success. A lot been around for a long time. Okay, so you started with the music, and then you kind of got into acting. Now, I had seen that you had mentioned one of your inspirations for acting was Johnny Depp specifically.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so what about his performances sparked and inspired you to go, yeah, I want to do that too?
Honestly, I got into horror movies at a young age because I had a big crush on Drew Barrymore, and my dad let me watch Scream when I was like 9 years old, and seeing Barrymore die was like heartbreaking to me. I was like, oh my god! And like then I realized when I saw the behind the scenes, and she's like covered in blood, but she's laughing, and she's like, ah, and I was like, well, yeah, it's all just acting. So like at a young age, I fell in love with horror movies. I was like, whoa, that's so cool. And so I started watching horror movies, and I watched Nightmare on Elm Street. And when Johnny Depp dies, he like gets folded in half and stuff. When he dies, I was like, this guy, he I don't know, he spoke to me. It was like I thought of myself as like, that's me when I get older. That's gonna be me in movies one day. I just thought of that. And then I ended up watching Benny and June at a really young age. And Benny and June, he doesn't even barely speak in that movie. And like that's what's really cool. We'll talk about that, I guess, later. But I'll compare that to something that you're gonna bring up later, probably.
Fantastic.
But yeah, definitely Benny and June.
Yeah, it's all facial expression at that point.
Yeah.
So okay, so you're looking at performances by Johnny Depp and some of these other people. What is a single skill or aspect that you always kind of hoped to emulate from some of the people that you'd seen that you wanted to kind of bring to life on screen?
I mean, really honestly, it goes back to what I was just saying. Johnny Depp and Benny and June, he was able to give a performance without tons of dialogue, and you felt like you knew this person. Because if you meet people in real life and you have friends, you know that not all your friends are very talkative, and there are some people in this world that can just be a good person with a very small amount of words, you know. And
Right.
and there aren't enough movies like that. I think a lot of actors want heavy dialogue because they feel like, oh, the more I'm talking, the more people will take me seriously. And with me, I would love to be, you know, I got lucky enough, but I'd love to be in. Back then, I was thinking I would love to be in a role where I could do some heavy acting and it not be about the dialogue, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I got to backtrack for a second. I thought of this, and then I got spaced it for a second. But I have to ask. You said you're a huge horror movie fan. You watched Friday the 13th. Favorite horror monster?
Ooh, well, goodness. Does it have to be a monster? Or it could just be a killer, like a
Could
horror
be
killer.
anything. Anything.
Okay. Okay, honestly, and this is not just, you know, it's not just biased because I know the people that created it, but Mr. Jangles from the new American Horror Story season, last season, he's got so much backstory. He's got so much like just emotions, and like it's not like one of those weird, oh, I feel sympathy for the killer kind of creatures. It's more like I understand what drove him there, and then you're angry for him because he was like mind controlled to do what he, you know, spoiler alert if you're not an American Horror Story fan, then you didn't watch it already anyways.
Yeah, it's been out for a little while. I
Yeah.
can expect that people know that.
But other than him, my favorite monster wouldn't necessarily be a horror movie monster, but it would be Godzilla,
Oh,
honestly. Yep.
very nice. Yeah, the that one's got a legacy that is kind of hard to ignore, and it's just
Yeah,
there's a charm to it. Especially the early Godzilla films just had so much style, and it's hard not to smile when you're watching.
exactly. Yeah. I think Godzilla got me turned on to Power Rangers when I was a kid because I loved seeing the people in the Godzilla suit. You knew they were wearing a suit. And you knew they were just like karate fighting with these other people in suits, and they probably felt so like goofy on set, just in these big suits. But it was fun to watch. So whenever Power Rangers came around, the monsters reminded me of Godzilla, and I was like, oh, I love this show.
And it just kind of comes through. It
Yeah,
allows for a connection that you wouldn't expect would be there.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so kind of back to where I was kind of originally intending to ask. So this transition that you did, going from music to acting, it would seem that it would be kind of a trial by fire conversion. What is something that maybe you were surprised about once you started into actually making television and film? So you go, so I didn't realize that this worked in this way, or it's like, oh, this is really neat. I had no clue.
That's a great question, man. You got some good questions already. Definitely, it is a trial by fire, especially because like when you're doing music, it's expressive, but it's also your expression. So the person who is performing is usually the person who, I mean, there are some artists out there that have other people write their songs, but for the most part, most artists have something to do with the songwriting, at least, you know, and it's coming from a personal place. But when it's in acting, you're taking someone else's expression, someone else's words, someone else's emotions, and trying to bring that to life. So when I first got into acting, I wasn't really thinking I was going to be an actor. I was just on set as an extra, just getting my foot in the door and just looking at actual professional actors and what they do to get prepared, or what they do, to learn their lines, or how they warm up on set. And I was learning so much from it, but I realized that the warm up before an actor performs, even though you can do multiple takes, before they perform, the way they warm up behind set is just like warming up in music. They're doing the same blah, 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 blah. They're doing all the same warm-ups to get there. Tom Hanks actually taught me, I know I'm kind of like rushing forward, but Tom Hanks taught me that if you put your knuckle in your mouth and you talk over your teeth whenever you're trying to say words, it makes it easier to say the words because you've been practicing talking over your teeth. And I used to do that with a cork when I was practicing for a show, singing, in bands. I'd put a cork in my mouth and I would, say the lyrics or sing the lyrics with cork in my mouth. So seeing him do that with his knuckle, I was like, why didn't I ever think of that? Like I always was like, oh, I don't have a cork.
Like that's crazy. It's something very small, but super useful.
Mm-hmm.
So now I expect you probably learned more than just the acting techniques and the tricks, because you were involved in the creation of Immurement, right? This
Yes.
kind of I think you call it like a no budget kind of a film.
Seems to be what I'm good at. No budget features.
That's the key to the future, right? Because that's everybody has a story to tell, and with the technology we have now, that allows us to kind of be connected in an easier way. But that had to also have been a real big learning process.
Oh, absolutely.
What kind of went into doing that? Where did you find that the brunt of your effort had to go to get that to come into being?
The brunt of my effort would have to be in casting, because when you have a no budget film, that is the hardest thing to do. You can find tons of people who've never been on a movie set who want so badly to just get that experience that they'll do it for free. And I was doing it for free too. So I told everyone, I was like, look, there's going to be a day where I can't do free films, because if anyone here watching doesn't know about it, once you become a professional actor and you have all these agents and representatives and stuff, you can't do things for free. You can't. It's actually against SAG law. Like you can't do things for free. So I was taking advantage of being a, straight off the street nobody that could do this. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this for free. If you guys want to do this for free, let's do it. And I crewed up real quick. I got all the crew I needed. Everyone was ready to do it. But the actors, nobody wanted to act for free. Like it was just impossible. Because if you want to find an actor that's good, you have to find an actor that's trained. And if you find an actor that's trained, they probably are too tired of doing free stuff. So that was the hardest part. We were looking for people who would, act for free, but actually do a great job. And we got lucky. We found an amazing cast. I don't think there was one actor. No, I take that back. I'm gonna be completely honest. I'm not gonna point this person out. There's one actor. There was only one actor in the entire film that just kind of phoned it in. But everybody else was on point.
I would think it would be, especially as the casts get larger and larger, it would be harder and harder to avoid at least getting somebody that's just kind of going through the motions. How would you compensate for that? How in the editorial process or in the writing, how would you kind of work around that particular problem?
Well, I never thought I would talk about this on an interview, but I think she'd be flattered, though. I think she'd be flattered. And if you're listening, April, thank you for giving the best performance you can give. But we had an actress she was very interested in being an actress, but she'd never had any training. She'd only been an extra, and we got her to come on board as a crew member, and she ended up doing locations and scouting and contracting. She did so much work that she said, "Please, can I audition for this role?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And she auditioned for the role of our lead actress's mom. And on the audition, she did great. She did amazing. But this is a tip for future actors out there. When a director or a director of photography tells you eye lines or is trying to like make a mark for you to look at this place near the camera, don't argue with them. Just don't. And so I tried to explain to her. I was like, "Look, you're looking at the wrong spot. You got to look at the spot." She's like, "No, I know where the actress was sitting." I was like, "That doesn't matter." I was like, "We're at a different angle. It looks weird on camera. Sorry, someone just pulled up with the loudest music they could possibly play, and for no reason. They just wanted to show us that they have a speaker system." Anyway, she was, I know. But so she had never had training, so she came in and she's like fighting me about her eye lines. And I'm like, "We have to get this shot. I can't argue with you. You should never argue with a director." But so I was like, "You know what? Fine." We shot it. We were in editing that night because we were editing every night after shooting to try to get the movie done and put in festivals. And we're editing that night, and my friend goes, "I don't know what we're going to do, man. It looks like she's looking at the wall. It looks like she's looking at the wall. Like, what are we going to do?" And I went, "We're going to make her blind." That's what we're going to do.
Oh, that's genius right there. That's good.
So what we did is we added a line from the lead actress in the movie about her mom being blind. And then when she came onto the screen and she was looking at different eye lines, it was perfect. It worked.
That's awesome. See, and what I find always fascinating about this process, especially talking to filmmakers like I've talked to all of the filmmakers that do this, but hearing stories from filmmakers that have done it themselves, especially on a shoestring budget, like Kevin Smith with Clerks. Anything like that, it seems like you kind of add a certain level of challenge to it that you wouldn't normally have, but it also it seems to me at least, that it would give you an additional sense of accomplishments because it is literally yours. There is no part of it controlled by anybody else.
Yeah, no big media or anything. I mean, it is definitely, you do add a level of challenge. And I think you're right. Like when you watch Clerks, he had $9,000. His car flooded. So he sold the car to a scrapyard and he maxed out 2 credit cards and $9,000. But his cameras were still very cheaply made cameras. So they were like, "Oh, this doesn't look like a movie. What are we going to do?" So he made it black and white. And that was because of that challenge. And if it wasn't for that challenge, we wouldn't have Clerks. Clerks would be a different movie, So
and it's things like that give you a chance to kind of blow people away. Because I know I was floored when I saw Clerks the first time, and it's that you come through into your filming more in that way than anything else, right?
True. I mean, for an example, on Immurement, we couldn't find anyone who wanted to play a dead body. So me being the director of this film, I wrote it, produced it, directed it, and shot it. And I had to set up the camera, get someone else to man the camera, crawl into a body bag, and have them drag me across the floor and throw me down a pit. So if you watch the trailer for Immurement and you see the killer, it's not a mystery movie. You know who the killer is from the first couple of scenes. So like when you see the killer drop a body into a pit and it falls down, that's actually me being dropped into this pit.
That is fantastic. All right, so let's. You kind of talked a little bit about this already, but I want to kind of expand on it a little bit. American Horror Story. So you played a carny, right?
I did.
You're on a lot of episodes, but the thing that kind of sticks out to me, and I saw a little bit of this mentioned, is that you got some encouragement from a couple of really neat sources between Evan Peters. For those listening who is not completely familiar with who that is, I think Quicksilver from the X-Men movies, or Todd from Kick-Ass, Kathy Bates, who is just a legend. what is it that they were able to tell you that kind of gave you the push in the direction that you needed?
Man, I've been wanting to talk about this for so long, because I hope one day that Evan sees this and he's like, "That's my boy," because like I was on American Horror Story for 7 months. I had a lot of good FaceTime that got cut, so I'm technically credited on IMDb as an extra that's uncredited on the show, but I'm on every episode because I was in every episode, but it got cut. I did not put those credits up. Those credits popped up on IMDb one day, and I've been trying to take them down for so long because I don't want people to see the episode, not see me in it, But it was such a good experience, and I'll say that, like, Evan came up to me one day. It was after him and Finn Whitrock did it, and you can see me in that scene with them. Him and Finn Whitrock, when Finn Whitrock is, like, begging to be part of the freak show, and he's like, "No, you're not one of us. Go home." Evan, it was just such a good performance that night. I was holding the door open for him, and he was walking through, and he's like, "Hey, man." He's like, "You've been here for a couple of weeks." At that time, he's like, "So how long are you going to be with us?" I was like, "Oh, I'm going to be here till day out." I was like, "Day in to day out. I'm one of the main, core." He's like, "That's awesome." He's like, "I've never worked with, extras that are here the whole time." And I was like, "Yeah, this is a really different type of job. I got lucky, And he's like, "Yeah, definitely." And then I was staring at his, he had lobster hands in that season. So I was like, "Man, what do those feel like?" Because, like, I've been seeing them, and, like, what do they feel? He's like, "Oh, you want to touch them?" So he let me feel his lobster hands, and they feel like foam. And they were, like, squishy, kind of like, I don't know, like this, like foam keychain type, squishiness. And I was like, "Man, that's crazy. I would have never guessed." He's like, "So what are you doing? You just want to be an extra, or are you actually pursuing acting?" I was like, "Man, after seeing you and Finn Whitrock, like, 3 feet away from me, doing that emotional scene all night, I was like, you guys inspired me." And I was like, "I've never seen something like that." It was the first time I got to see that up close like that. I was like, it was awesome. He's like, "Man, thank you. It means a lot to me." He goes, I started out the same way, just wanting to do it, going after it. And he's like, "You can do it too, man." And I was like, "What? No." He's like, "No, definitely." He goes, "You definitely got the look." And he's like, "You could do it, man. You could be an actor." And I was like, "Well, what do I do first?" He's like, "Just go try to get headshots and an agent." He goes, "That should be your first goal. Headshots and an agent. That should be your goal." And I was like, "All right, cool." And I worked and tried very hard to get headshots and an agent, but they were both very hard to get. You pay people for headshots, they give you crappy pictures. You go to an agent, turns out he's a real estate agent on the side, so he's not even worried about you. So it's, like, really hard to do. I ended up, I was doing a scene. It was the last episode of that season, and I was sweeping the floor, sweeping right next to Kathy Bates, and she had, like, a few lines. So, like, they were like, "All right, everyone pantomime and be quiet," but they gave me a broom, and they were like, "But you have to sweep," and I'm like, "I have to sweep quietly?" I was like, "That's impossible." So here I am, like, trying my hardest to sweep the floor, making it look like I'm sweeping, where the bristles are, like, just barely missing the floor, so there's no sound. And then I'm doing it. She's in the middle of her dialogue. It's going great, but there was one take out of, like, 5. There's one take where I, like, hit the floor and hit the bristles, and I could hear them go, "Cut!" And I was like, I don't know if I can curse on this. So I was like,
Oh, you're just fine.
Okay, well, I was like, "Ugh," I was so mad. And then, like, I walked by, and Kathy Bates made eye contact with me. And I'd been, talking to her for months and stuff here and there. She made eye contact with me, and she was like, "You're doing great, honey." Like, she was like, "You're doing great." And I was like, "Thank you." Months, or actually years and years later, she's talking to Erica Irving, she's a reoccurring lead cast member on, like, 3 or 4 seasons now because of Freak Show, or like 3 seasons. And she's a great actress. And she's like, she played the tall lady in Freak Show. Well, she's talking to Erica Irving at a American Horror Story party, or an American Horror Story party. And she told Erica, "How's everyone doing?" Erica's like, "Yeah, I'm currently making a movie with Joe. He was an extra on American Horror Story. He's doing really good now." And she was talking to her, and she goes, "Oh, I loved those extras. I loved our core group of extras. There's only like 5 of us." She's like, "I loved them. She said, everyone meant so much to that show, even the ones that were sweeping the floor."
Oh,
And when she said that, it, like, blew my mind. I was like, she still remembers me. I was like, that's so awesome.
that is fantastic. Because she seems like the mom that I would always want to have.
Oh,
every
yeah,
time.
absolutely, man. Absolutely. Did you see Disjointed?
Yeah.
God, it's such a good show.
It's really kind of inspiring, and a lot of it is just there's some unquantifiable something that people some people say that they just have it. And I don't think that's true. I think it's something that's developed. You just kind
Oh
of
yeah.
bring it through as a skill.
Oh yeah.
And it seems like that they have that. So, okay. So, all right. I got to ask, especially because you were on set with Evan Peters, and he's been in a couple of comic book movies, and a lot of what we focus on
True.
is comic related, comic movie, comic television related. We
Oh, cool.
tend to obsess about that just a little bit. So, are you a comic book fan at all?
I'm a huge comic book fan.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so what is your meat and potatoes? Your comic that you really get into?
God, Bloodshot was so awesome. I loved Bloodshot. I had Bloodshot as a kid, and whenever I heard that they're making a movie with Vin Diesel, I was like, that is perfect. You couldn't pick a better person to play Bloodshot. Like, it's just awesome. My favorite comic of all time, though, is very underrated. It's where Bloodshot started. Do you remember?
That would have been, didn't he guest in Exo War?
Close. He did, but that wasn't the first one.
Oh.
You will never guess then. You'll probably never guess.
I
like
actually,
video games?
I do like video games, but was it Turok that he was in? Turok. Yep. See, I've got it written down. I actually have it because we have a database, an Ultimate Comic database. Man. Every movie that's just been there and it's there. So I've got it written down, but my brain is Swiss cheese on more
it's cool. You said it. I didn't give you the answer. You said it. That's awesome. Because, no one's ever read the Turok comics. Every time I tell them, they're like, oh, man, I love Turok for N64. I was like, yeah, I love the comics. They're like, oh, sorry, hold on.
Oh, you're good.
You still there?
Yep.
All right, cool. But yeah, they're like, oh, what comics? Did they make comics after the game? I'm like, no, they made the games from the comics. That's the best part.
That early Valiant stuff was just golden. I mean, it
was.
had so much neat stuff in it.
Oh, yeah.
But so, okay, well, let's roll with that. All right, you're a comic book fan. Would you want to play Turok if they ever made a Turok movie?
If anyone's watching this, can you guys make it happen, please? Please. I would be a great Turok. I'm part Native American. Come on, I'd be a great Turok. I'll even buff up for it. I'm out here exercising right now, anyways.
You'll find somebody to coach you on bow and arrow and go the whole.
Oh yeah, actually, I'm pretty good with a bow and arrow already. Really? Yeah, I think Turok actually inspired that.
Nice. Yeah, that's a skill I've tried several times, and I can get the arrow in the general vicinity of nowhere near the target. So.
Nice.
The important thing is to try, though. And on that note, I'm going to try and get you, the listener, to remind everybody around you that the Pudding Guys are everywhere on social media. Don't forget to check us out at Real Pudding Guys on Twitter, at Pudding Guys on Instagram and on Facebook, and even on Patreon, where for just $1 a month, you can support the Pudding Guys as we bring you new people to talk to, new equipment to talk into, and just generally upgrade the quality of the show. And in fact, coming soon, I know I've been saying this for a while, but I've been working on it. Coming soon, and hopefully August, we're going to have something special that's going to come up that is not only a way to support us, but to have access to a pretty interesting set of tools that nobody else has. Stay tuned.
That's interesting.
Yes, we will be that internet, that comic movie database. We are.
Yeah.
It's going to be television shows. You're going to be able to drill down. We already have it, so you can look who's the actor that's been in the most comic book movies. You can find.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I don't count silent movies. I mean, it's completely customizable, but it's going to expand out. It's going to be great.
That's epic. That is awesome.
And we have a lot of fun with it. So, and this kind of rolls into it, talking about comic books and powers. One of the projects that you're involved with kind of has something to do with that, with the movie Project Power that's coming out, right?
Yeah.
Are you able to talk at all about that?
There's not much that I even know about it right now. The scenes that I got to shoot were amazing. I'm a funny character. I've got some action sequences. I got to work hand in hand with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and he gave me a big old bear hug at the end of the night, or the end of the second night. He gave me a big bear hug, and he was like, "Thank you so much for just putting everything you have into this." And I was like, "Dude, this is great. This is awesome."
Living the dream, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, the concept for that looks like it'll be a lot of fun. It's allows the fun of kind of the superhero mystique without the problem of how do I write for something where it has power creep. I don't know if you ever watched Heroes, the show Heroes.
Yeah.
love that show. But as shows like that go on, you have a harder and harder time creating
something original
and something that's engaging. Like,
yeah
what do we do when we've got somebody that just absorbs powers? Eventually, we got to do something with them, and that
yeah
kind of happens at every level. I think that this movie, that Project Power, approaches that in a very interesting way. It looks like it could be
I think so
a
too.
lot of fun.
I think so too. And you could talk about the plot. The plot's public. It's about Jamie Foxx and Joseph Gordon-Levitt teaming up to take a drug off the street that people have been taking that is called power, and it gives the users superpowers. The unfortunate thing is, it sounds like a win-win situation, but the unfortunate thing is you could have the power of exploding, and you could just blow up a street block without knowing it, and you don't know what your power is till you take it. So these people are taking it, not caring about what they're going to do to people around them. And so Joseph Gordon-Levitt is a cop, and Jamie Foxx is somebody who's went through a lot of trouble, I guess, with that drug. So they're both trying to get it off the street. It also stars Dominique Fishback from The Hate U Give. She is an incredible actress. She's phenomenal. She even wrote her own one-woman play called Subvert It. She's been performing it all over the country, and she's actually supposed to go across seas and perform it over there too. So,
well, it's got a lot of comic book movie presence in that. I mean, Levitt himself was in the Nolan Batman trilogy, and
and the writer of the script itself is the writer of Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey.
Right, exactly. And Jamie Foxx was in the Amazing Spider-Man sequel. Amy Landecker
Play Spawn.
Right? I mean, just so much cool stuff. I'm kind of geeked about that one, but I'm also super geeked about Greyhound. I have been a bit of a Tom Hanks fan for quite some time. How can you not be, right?
Yeah, for good reason, yeah.
But it seems that the topic of the film being centered around World War II. There are a lot of World War II movies. What about this film sets itself apart, makes it its own thing? That why is this going to stand away from all of the other films, do you think?
And this is kind of cool. We were talking earlier about like Benny and June and me really wanting, I was dreaming of that part. Since I started with the first couple of one-liners here and there and under fives here and there. And I was like, man, it felt like a challenge to get more dialogue. If that's what it felt like. It felt like the goal was just get more dialogue in everything I do. And to me, that didn't feel fun. It felt like I was undermining the idea behind acting in the first place, which is just to portray emotions and get someone to feel something, whether or not you're saying certain words or not, And with this film, a lot of the reviews came in. You guys I wouldn't read the reviews yet. Don't spoil yourself in the movie because some of the reviews have spoilers. Right. But a lot of the reviews have been like talking about how the dialogue is all realistic dialogue. It's not, you're not going to hear any cheesy, oh, what are you going to do back home whenever you get back out of the war? You're not going to hear any of that stuff that you wouldn't hear in real life. There's no time for that. We went to boot camp for training to be in the Navy, and then we got thrown on a ship and with our captain, and these guys are the same way. In 1942, they didn't have much training. They just got thrown onto a ship, and the war starts as soon as they hit the water, because as soon as they get to the Atlantic and they don't have air cover, these U-boats are going to attack, and there's no time for talking about what you're going to do when you get home. You don't even know if you're going to get home. So this movie is amazing because all of the dialogue, I think, is 100% accurate. Like, it's exactly what you would have heard had you been on that ship with us. And I think that's what I'm so excited about.
Now, do you think that's an aspect of the approach of the director, or do you think that's more about the source material from the C.S. Forester novel?
Oh, I think it's the source material, to be honest. I mean, Aaron, if you watch Get Low, Aaron is an amazing director. And he can do phenomenal things with no dialogue. And I think that's why Tom went for him. The movie's going to be different. There's going to be a lot of just emotions, facial emotions. Just, like you don't need to hear everyone's backstory to understand this person's like me. You know, I think you really appeal to the person, or the person appeals to you more, the character does, because you don't hear their backstory. It doesn't disconnect you. I think they could be anybody. They could be you, you know? And I think he knew Aaron was the perfect director for that, because if you read the book just, it starts off the same way that, you know, the movie does, just action as soon as you open the first page, and it's just all war dialogue. It's all that kind of dialogue, and you don't talk to people by their names unless they're an XO or, you know, a commander. You don't say their names. They're just, they have a job and they know they're there to do the job, and they're all one. All 300 of us on that ship become one vessel, and we all have to live and breathe together, or if one of us messes up, we all die. So
you did the boot camp. Now, was that just kind of they tried to cram everything into it, or is this, okay, this is how the Navy works, this is how you need to operate, this is how a ship works? How in depth was this boot camp? How interesting was it?
Well, we were trained by Dale Dye, the legendary Dale Dye. Speaking of Johnny Depp, I feel like I'm like 1 degree away from him now, because Dale Dye trained him on Platoon and he trained me on Greyhound. But we were trained by him, and they wanted to give us like a month of boot camp, like they did with the guys on Band of Brothers and what they did on Saving Private Ryan. But that wouldn't work with the actual story, because in 1942, in World War II, yeah, you might have gotten a lot of training if you were in boot camp before the war started, or if you were in boot camp to be, you know, on the front lines, because you had plenty of time before they got you there. But when it came to these certain soldiers, the people that were put on Greyhound ships, or the ones that were put on a Fletcher class destroyer and just sent out into the water, those soldiers had a week of training tops. So they didn't know much. Yeah, so they gave us 3 to 4 days of training, and Dale Dye said, "You're lucky you're not here for a month, but you're unlucky, because I'm going to take that month of training and cram it into these 4 days, or these 3 days." And I was like, this is going to be intense. And it was. We were up at 4 a.m. You're sleeping in a bunk. My bunk was at the top. There's 3 bunks always like on top of each other. My bunk is at the top, so my face is like right there by the top of the roof and the ship, on that level of the berth, and my face is up there. And there's an alarm, if you can imagine. Let's see. You see these speakers up here. If you can imagine an alarm like that, like a big Blackson right by the roof, right by my face. And at 3 a.m. in the morning, starts going off, wakes us up. We roll out of bed, all try to get dressed, try to put our K-packs on, try to put our helmets on. And I think we're going to do it's not going to be live, but I know they're doing a premiere with us the day it comes out. Later that night, we're doing a Zoom meeting with the entire cast. Nice. And I don't want to tell the story before he gets to, so I'll leave it to Travis. But Travis Quentin. He's you can see him on the most recent Greyhound post on Apple TV's Instagram. He's in the behind the scenes with Tom. He's a great actor. He is a big guy. He's like 6'2", 6'3". He's a big dude. And he rolled out of bed, smacked his head on the roof, landed on the ground, busted his knee, and came running up into the quarters where we were at in the bridge. He came running up there wearing nothing but his boxers and a K-pack and a helmet, and he was bleeding from the head, and he's like, ow. And that's what it was. Every morning was that, and then you're at your station, and then they're yelling down your throat to let you know, hey. And even though we were doing boot camp on the USS Kidd, which is a World War II museum, it's not really floating in the water, but they were putting us through these drills, like what if, and like, what if there's a U-boat out there and it's over here and someone screams out 087, what does that mean? And you're like, that way. You're like trying so hard to figure it out. And then we understood how to be good Navy men. We understood how to stand at attention, and my grandfather was a Marine, so I kind of caught on really easily, but like we understood all that, and we understood every name of every weapon on the Greyhound, the Bofors and the this and that, but we didn't understand the severity of like how dangerous it was. And that's what they wanted us to know. They wanted us to know everything we did know, and they threw us on this movie so that when we did our parts and we're acting out these scenes, we're thinking, oh my God, like we didn't have enough training for this, and our captain, this is his first time. He's not ready for this. We're all going to die. It's like, that's pretty much my feeling.
That's awesome. So, okay. So they trained you in the museum. how much of the actual shooting was done on practical set and how much was kind of post-production additive?
Everything with the extras, all the weapon shots, the out exterior shots where you see extras loading K guns and stuff, that's all done on the actual museum. It's at the actual USS Kidd. Everything when it comes to my scenes, when you see me or you see me and Tom or the acting, that was all on a sound stage. I don't know if you like bleed in pictures with your interviews when you go live.
Not often, but sometimes.
Not often. Well, I'll share one with you, and if you want, you can share it on your Instagram or something like that. But it's we have this picture. I'm gonna get it framed and put it on my wall because it's beautiful. And we did everything on a sound stage in Baton Rouge. It was stage 6, and the set was called a gimbal. It was basically our own private roller coaster. It was insane, man. And it was like, oh my God, it was so cool. Like you walk up 2 flights of stairs, there's a bridge. Everyone walks across the bridge. We get in our places, stand-ins all go back to their seating area. And then they, the makeup department comes in, last look at our makeup and stuff. And then when they run back across the bridge lifts up. And now there's only the director, the cinematographers, and the cast. And that's it. And we're on this gimbal that's moving like a boat that looks just like the USS Kidd on the inside. It really does. But then they're like, gimbal and weather. Which, oh, God, I'm so glad I get to show somebody this finally. So Tom Hanks used to say this all the time because they would shout it out whenever they would start the gimbal. They would say, gimbal and weather. It would start moving, and they'd start spraying us with seawater and stuff. And Tom was like, doesn't that just sound like a lawyer? He's like, doesn't it sound like a law office? A law office of gimbal and weather. And it was cracking me up so bad. I was laughing so hard. I was like, dude, I'm never going to hear it the same again. And he's like, that's pretty good, huh? I was like, yeah, it's pretty good. And it was just such a funny little joke between us. And it was only like Tom, me, and a couple other people on set. And he made that joke. And so at the end of the set, or at the end of the production when we were done, we wrapped, he gave me a going away gift, like a thank you, and it had a bunch of really cool stuff, like just like a bunch of really, really neat stuff that I'll keep for the rest of my life. And one of the things was this challenge coin. If anyone here doesn't know, if you're in the enlisted forces, you'll get a challenge coin when you've went into war and you've went through the battle and you come home. They'll give you a challenge coin, and it's a really thick coin that you can carry around with you just to remind you of what you went through. And he gave us this one. It says Playtone on one side. Let me see if you can focus on that. He says Playtone on one side. Yeah, come on. That's as good as it's going to get. But here's the other side. It's got the ship on it. It says Greyhound at the top. And you can kind of see it at the bottom. It says gimbal and weather. And I was like, that is so epic, man. It's so awesome.
It's awesome. So it's like almost being on your own Universal Park ride. The ride, there's supposed to be a ride, but it's not really a ride. You're kind of all in the same spot.
Yeah, and it's way more dangerous too because it didn't have as much of time to be tested before they put us on it. And they told us this too to scare us. They were like, "Yeah, I hope the gimbal doesn't break. Hope the gimbal doesn't break." They just kept saying that to get us nervous. And Tom's really awesome, man. One day I'm on this thing and he's behind the cameras and the cameras are on us. And I think it's that shot they put on the Today Show this morning. But he's got the cameras on us, and all of a sudden the whole gimbal just shakes, it moves, scares the crap out of me. I'm like, oh my God, what was that? And Tom's laughing. He goes, what was that? And he walks off, and he acted like he didn't know what it was, but he's laughing. So I was like, no, he knows. And I was talking to one of the construction workers that helped build the set, and he was like, yeah, I was standing underneath that thing one day, and it just made this real loud noise, and it shook really hard, and I thought it was gonna fall on me. And the guy setting it up with the computer said, no, that's a simulated hit. So they didn't want us to know, and it was perfect. So I can't wait to see that in the movie. Anytime you see the ship get, hit or whatever happens to it, I'm not going to tell you. But anytime it happens and you see our reaction, it was completely authentic.
That is really cool. Okay, so I'm trying to imagine myself being in your place, having taken the training that you're doing your work, but you're constantly interacting with kind of one of the greats of all time, being Tom Hanks.
Truly.
I don't see how I would not just become so incredibly nervous. Did you have any nerves dealing? It's like I'm working with Tom Hanks. What do I do? Okay, I got it. Professional.
Honestly, I kind of, and it goes both ways. Like Tom, he's definitely up there. He's my favorite actor. So I never thought I would act with him so soon in my career. and I kind of killed off some of those stage fright, nervous, feelings, because I worked around a lot of celebrities already, and I see them as like, they're another human like me. They started where I start. And I thought this too. I was like, if I treat them weird, if it shows in my performance that I'm too starstruck, star-stricken, then it'll really mess up my performance. But it made it really easy with Tom because, like I said, we went through all the boot camp with Dale first before we met him. And we didn't even know our roles. I didn't even know if I was going to have a name in this movie. I didn't know if I was going to say one line and that was it. Like, I had no idea how big my role was at the time because I was just like, I'm here in a movie with Tom Hanks. Cool. I'll say one thing and I'm completely okay with that. But then it ended up being, oh, you're here every day for 3 months and you have a name and you're next to Tom Hanks the whole movie. And I'm like, hey, what the hell? Like, we're just like, this is really big. So when we met Tom Hanks, it was almost like we were meeting our captain on the ship, which is exactly how we would have felt as soldiers. This is our captain. He's going to keep us alive. He's going to do something great, and he's going to get us across this gigantic ocean alive, and we have to trust him. We have to. So we didn't really get a chance to hang out with him and talk to him until we'd already filmed for like 2 months. So anytime I was talking to him, it was like, I'm on set, and like between scenes or at lunch, I'd be like, hey man, how's it going? And he's like, you're doing great today, man. Thank you for being here, Poliquin. And they had a nickname for me and stuff. So it was like, it was cool knowing him. It really was. But I didn't get to actually pick his brain or just talk to him about like normal things until we'd already done the beef, the bulk of the movie. And we knew, oh, the rest of the scenes we're doing, we can kind of take it lightheartedly. This is the moment where my character would have been able to take a second to talk to his captain, off camera. But like, even though when Greyhound starts out, it's like from start to finish, you're in the middle of the battle with us. There is no break. But in reality, my character Forbrick would have had, before the battle started, would have had a minute or two to catch up with the captain, and I had plenty of time like that. And after the first 2 months, I was able to talk to Tom like all day about just everything, just random, nothings. But I think if it wasn't for the fact that I didn't get to know him well until we started filming, I think that my character would have been too comfortable with him, and I needed to have that. I needed to have that weird, what's the word for it? Separation between soldier and captain, there needed to be that. He wasn't just a star. He was also keeping us alive. Yeah. So it didn't hurt it.
Well, and there's always that separation between enlisted members and those that are officers. So there's always that kind of break. How hard? I mean, this was always going to be like a Netflix film, right?
Oh no. Power.
Sorry.
Power was going to be a Netflix film. This film was actually slated to be released in theaters.
See, like I said, Swiss cheese.
That's all right.
It happens sometimes. So what is, have you been involved in like kind of the red carpet side of it once something gets released up until this point? Or is this going to be kind of your first foray into that?
Well, I've been to red carpets. Most of the time it was because I knew somebody that was working on a movie and they were like, hey, I need a guest. And they would bring me to it. And I'm like, oh, cool. That's this person, that person. And then I was also there for like the American Horror Story parties for their premieres for a freak show. But I was never one of the cast for those things. I was always just like, oh, I'm there. Or, that's that guy from set, like I was never part of the cast. So this actually was going to be my first big red carpet premiere that I was one of the lead cast for, or the supporting lead, and I was excited about it. I really was, but COVID messed that up, and that does suck. But at the same time, Tom's right. Even though we're not going to be able to see this released officially on theaters, I think the movie is going to be seen by a lot more people this way, because for the price of 1 or 2 movie tickets, you can take your whole family, and you can have your whole family sitting in their living room. And I also think that the movie's so powerful, and what I've been seeing from a lot of the reviews is that people want to see it in theaters so bad. So as soon as they allow us to get back into theaters, I wouldn't be surprised if someone just rents out a theater and plays this movie because they want to. So there is going to be opportunities for people to see this. I mean, they bring Jurassic Park back to theaters every other year, So I believe that they'll do it. I think they will. I think it'll be crazy. It might be one of those things where people have been craving to see it in theaters. You know?
Well, and that was kind of where I was going with it. It's nice. I mean, I've got a large enough TV. A lot of people have a large TV now, but
Sure.
it's not the same as when you can kind of be immersed in kind of the entire environment, because like you were talking
Yeah.
about, the whole thing, you're supposed to be kind of nervous, and you're supposed to be kind of, this is supposed to put you on the edge of your seat. So in
Yeah.
a theater environment, I mean, you get that, and it I was kind of hoping that it's going to be one of those instances where people will be able to get to see it in that kind of an environment, and then you get that red carpet thing where everybody's come to ask you, what are you wearing, and what
Yeah, and you're like,
I just think that would be, for something like this. I have a feeling that this could be a pretty something that's going to carry on, not be kind of a movie that comes out and everybody forgets about it.
I think so too.
So I'm really kind of excited about this.
Thank you.
Right. So one final thing about Greyhound: is there any kind of thing that you learned? You said you had a grandfather that was in the Marines, and Marines and Navy are not exactly apples and apples, but close in some respects.
Yeah.
Did you learn something through either the training or in the creation of the film about the Navy that you didn't know, and that's going to kind of stick with you, that's like, wow, that I had no idea that it worked this way?
I definitely did. My grandfather, like I said, he was a Marine, but he always scared me as a kid. You know, all I thought about when it came to war or fighting was just like, oh, people are dying, and that's scary. You know, that's all I thought about. And when we were learning from Dale Dye, there was a night he used to make us these things called monkey fists, which he would weave. He said, this is all you could do when you're out on the ship. You're bored, and especially in the 40s, there's no games and video games. So you would weave little things and make things for people. Just out of boredom. So one night he was making me one, and he was weaving it, and he was talking to us. And it was like me, Tom Brittany, and a few of the lead cast like circled around him while he was making these things. And he handed it to me, and he goes, here, you do a knot. So I did one of the knots, and he goes, now hand it to Tom. So I handed it to Tom Brittany. He did a knot. And he was like, every one of the crew members made a knot in this monkey fist. And then he gave it to me, and he's like, I want you to keep this. I want this to be important to you. I was like, it will be. And he goes, do you know why? And he said this. He goes, do you know why it's so important that every single person on this ship comes together, regardless of what their past is, regardless of where they came from? We're all Americans, or we're all fighting for America. And he's like, and one thing we try to do is make sure that no American citizen has to die for their country, because we put our lives on the line, and we are basically pleasing these warmongering, what do you call them? God, I can't remember the name they use for it. Basically, he was saying that even the people that are in the Marines, in the Army, in the Navy, they know that war is bad, and they don't want it to happen. They don't want war. And that's what I never understood. I always thought like that the Navy and the Marines would like brainwash you into thinking that it was important, that, you know, you needed war. But no, the people that are in it, even the sergeants, even the XOs, they're sitting there yelling down your throat, and they're like, we don't want you to die. We don't want war. We want to end war. They're like, so that's something I learned, was the Navy is not a government controlled, mind control program like we all think it is. It is a conglomerate of people that live in this country who don't want their families to have to go to war, so they go to war for them. And they have our best interest in mind.
Yeah, that is a fantastic sentiment that often I think just escapes people, that it's really intended to bring together, not to pull apart, and doesn't always end that way. Well, as we wind down here, I wanted to make sure I give you a chance. Is there anything that you want to give a shout out, whether it be you've got a performance with your band coming up, or anything else that you want to kind of bring to people's attention to make sure that we don't miss?
Well, besides telling people to watch Greyhound on Apple TV Plus this Friday, Apple TV Plus gives you a free trial. So if you have a Roku, you can get one of those from Walmart. You can plug it into your TV, or a smart TV. You can watch Apple TV Plus. and it'll be free for you to watch Greyhound if you haven't signed up yet. But other than that, there's one other movie I'm in that should be coming out hopefully this year, if not early next year. It's called All My Life. It's the true story of a woman who went through such a crazy experience with her husband, and I don't want to give away anything about it. It's a true story though, so you can find out about it. It's directed by Mark Myers. He did My Friend Dahmer and We Summon the Darkness. Mark Myers is a great director, so I think you're gonna love the movie. And I think if you like The Notebook, this might be your new favorite movie.
Another comic book link there. It's kind of crazy. Well, I will definitely be watching that one myself, and hopefully all the other pudding people will endeavor to do the same. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. I hope you had a good time.
Oh, it was awesome.
And we would definitely love to have you back again here in the future.
Definitely, maybe after Power, like you said, it's very comic booky. So
I'm definitely looking forward to that. Thank you again.
Thank you for the awesome questions.